Italy today responded harshly to the vile insults voiced by the dirty mouth of propagandist Solovyov against the Prime Minister of Italy, Giorgia Meloni. But Italy's response only further inflamed the Russians. Even the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs has started throwing insults at Italy, although there's nothing surprising about that. But one thing struck me about this scandal. No, not the Russians' words. I've long known they are savage people, so I didn't expect anything different. What struck me was that the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs summoned the Russian ambassador Alexei Paramonov because of the offensive remarks made by propagandist Vladimir Solovyov about the country's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. What surprised me is why Italy still hasn't gotten rid of these Russians in its country and even allows foreigners
иметь дипломатическое представительство.
The main thing is, why hasn't Italy, torn down the damn villas that Solovyov bought in Italy even before the war? My name is Alexei Pecci. Let's discuss this topic together. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to the channel, like this video, leave any comment under this episode, and subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pecci News. The link is in the description of this video. So, I'll try to present this story as calmly as possible, so as not to resemble the wild, unwashed Russians. It became known the other day that the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs summoned the Russian ambassador Alexei Paramonov because of offensive remarks made by propagandist Vladimir Solovyov towards the Prime Minister of Italy, Giorgia Meloni. In a statement by the Italian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Antonio Tajani, it is said that a formal protest will be lodged with Paramonov in connection with, quote, extremely serious and offensive statements by Solovyov. Minister Tajani also expressed support for the Prime Minister and declared full solidarity with her. Let me briefly note here that Solovyov on his show cursed at Meloni in Italian and then in Russian called her, quote, a fascist creature who betrayed her voters and is a disgrace to humanity. He also stated that the Prime Minister of Italy, quote, betrayed Trump, to whom she had previously sworn loyalty. Earlier, the President of Italy, Sergio Mattarella, expressed his solidarity with Meloni and called the words of the Russian propagandist vulgar. Giorgia Meloni responded to Solovyov's statement, noting that, quote, a diligent propagandist of the Putin regime has no right to give lessons on consistency and freedom. Unlike others, no one pulls our strings, we have no masters, and no one gives us orders. We have only one guiding principle, the interests of Italy. The Russian ambassador to Italy, Alexei Paramonov, called his summons to the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs a shot that hit the post. According to him, none of the Russian leadership made disparaging comments about Ms. Meloni or about Italy. But here, Paramonov, like a typical Russian, is of course lying. But first, let me quote this Alexei Paramonov. It is hardly possible to consider the current grounds for the summons to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs consistent with generally accepted diplomatic practice. The words of a well-known Russian journalist, even if he is very talented and popular among the people, spoken on his own private online channel. But here Paramonov himself, as he put it, missed the mark. The thing is, the official representative of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation, Maria Zakharova, stated that, in her worthless opinion, Italian diplomats for many years allowed Western media oriented toward the US and the UK to mess with their heads. That was a quote. Zakharova believes that Italy is in a state of suspended animation and that it's time for it to ask itself which side of history it is on. So this is already an official statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Russia. Or maybe Paramonov didn't quite understand who Mashka Zakharova is. Well, that's surprising. And these words by Solovyov about the Prime Minister did not go unnoticed by the Italian media. In particular, La Repubblica, Domani, the INSA agency, and so on wrote about the insults directed at Meloni. Former Prime Minister of the country Giuseppe Conte, as well as the head of the Parliamentary Commission for Oversight of State Broadcasters Barbara Flank, stated that such remarks are unacceptable. Even the leader of the country's opposition Democratic Party, Eli Schlein, spoke out in support of Meloni. You know what's the funniest part? Vladimir Solovyov is a reflection of all the wild, unwashed Russia. I will now clearly argue my point. I'll just remind you that in December, Solovyov was awarded the Order of Merit for the Fatherland Third Class. That is. And these are the kinds of heroes Russia has today. Once again, this is a state order of merit for the fatherland. And what else did he say about Meloni? What did he do to receive such an order? Solovyov, during an emotional speech on television, called Meloni, excuse me, I quote, a certified idiot and a bad woman. Using Italian and Russian, the propagandist used the phrase puta Meloni in reference to Meloni. That is a play on words from putana, which means, as you know, prostitute. In addition, Solovyov stated that Meloni, who has been in power for 4 years and expects to win in 2027, is, quote, a disgrace to humanity. In addition, propagandist Solovyov accused the Prime Minister of Italy of abandoning her previous nationalist and populist positions. Next is another quote from Solovyov. Meloni is a fascist country, a scoundrel who betrayed her voters because she ran for office with completely different slogans. Betrayal is her middle name. She also betrayed Trump, to whom she had previously sworn loyalty. Well, first of all, Solovyov is confused. Except for Russia and similar dictatorial regimes, no one swears loyalty to anyone. We don't live in the Middle Ages. He's used to having to go and lick Vladimir Putin's boots to swear loyalty to him. Otherwise, his propaganda wouldn't work. And that's why he projects this template onto the democratic world. And friends, for saying things like this about a woman, well, first and foremost, a woman, Solovyov became a hero at the state level in Russia and even received an award for it. An Order of Merit for the Fatherland Third Class. This is modern Russia. So when I say that Solovyov is a reflection of the whole savage, unwashed Russia, here's your proof. And in addition, let me remind you that earlier this same Solovyov allowed himself to make offensive remarks about the blogger Viktoria Bonya, who addressed the balding dictator Vladimir Putin with a call to create a direct channel of communication with civilians and to respond promptly to the problems that concern Russians. In particular, she mentioned such problems as internet blockages, flooding in Dagestan, an oil spill in Anapa, and the destruction of livestock in NU.
И экономические трудности.
And at the time of recording this episode, that video by Viktoria Bonya had already gained more than 30 million views. As a result, I emphasize 62-year-old Solovyov called 46-year-old Viktoria Bonya, quote, an elderly woman and, excuse me, a worn-out slut. That's, well, kind of Solovyov's statement. I'm saying this now, and I myself feel awkward that this filth which Russians voice is forced to come out of my mouth. Well, it's amusing to watch Russian liberals and opposition members right now. All this so-called Russian opposition, all these liberals, couldn't even do what Viktoria Bonya did. And that's also telling. That's exactly what a loud protest in Russia looks like today. One woman who hasn't lived in Russia for a long time just records a video. And get this, she asks Vladimir Putin to solve all these issues, completely forgetting that Vladimir Putin himself is the root cause of all these problems. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so financially with any donation using the links and details in the description. In this video's description or by using the QR code on your screen. I will be grateful for any support you can give. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone. Subtitles.